Alrighty, start a second video here. We're going to look at the site form in this one. Going to unlock the iPad, and we're back in the iForm app here. I'm going to start right on with the site form integrated. And let's just start at the top of this. There's a lot of similarities between the IO form and this. We try to reuse a lot of things like subforms, so they're the same. The artifact list, the feature list, it's the same form if you're entering from the IO form or from the site form. Anyway, let's look at the beginning here. You have your project. Again, it's defaulted to USFS2. If you click Other, there's a field to type in what it is. Your field GPS ID, you have XS1. X is assigned by this iPad. S refers to site. 1 is the first site assigned since we've cleared the numbering. You see this unhide other site name number fields. If you click that, it shows a bunch of other fields. It has an alt GPS ID. If the automatic one fails for some reason, you should not need to use this, but it's there just in case. Also recorded as, that allows you to have another field number or field designation if you're using it and track it with the automatic number. There's an existing site number if known. This would apply if you were revisiting a known site with it already has a site number. I'm going to touch on the unhide other site number name fields again, and that'll rehide those. Okay, then we get to site recorded by. That brings up a list of everybody on the crew for the project. You can select whoever's working on the site. Multiple is allowed. Date recorded, you just click that. If you click select, it's going to select today's date. The date's actually logged, but this way it's kind of when you started. So if you end up taking more than one day to finish a site, this is the date that would go on the form. Okay, then we go to site age category. This is just a grouping variable. It doesn't affect any other codes. It just, again, lets us kind of have a preliminary sense of the site's age. There's a field for ASM site type. That's a required field. This is a field that is used on the ASM site form. But it's also important because it hides or unhides the artifact and feature subforms. If we collect artifacts only, the artifact list will be there. Features with artifacts, you'll get both artifacts and features. Features only, just the feature list. So for now, I'm going to just leave it on artifacts only. Site type, it's just a short text field that if you want to put something in like lithic scatter or ag features or room block or mining site or whatever, it's just a way to very, very simply categorize the site. It's optional, you don't really have to do it. Going down, we'll get to the first subform on this, the TNF siteform specific subform. Tap that and open it up. This form is designed specifically for Tonto National Forest surveys. It has variables that directly match fields on their site form. So many of the fields on this form are required. You do need to complete them in some manner so that the site form can be completed. At the very top, you see a Show Hide Directions option. If you click Show, you get a little bit of text describing some of the things I just said. I'm going to go back to Hide to not take up space on the form. TNF condition, this this is a multi-select, so pick whichever ones you want. Again, the choices are directly from their site form, so it is what it is. TNF condition buildings. This one I did not make required since most of our sites are not going to have buildings, but it's again fields that TNF wants. Disturbances, same thing. You can select all that apply. You kind of go through the list and see their options. I'm going to select a couple. TNF protection. This refers to what's been done to protect the site. Again, it's on their form. Generally speaking, it's probably going to be none for most of the sites you guys find. TNF deposition, these are their codes. Again, you can pick whichever ones apply. Vegetation, this basically refers to, the vegetation regime. Again, their choices. If the site includes more than one environmental setting, you can collect more than one. Landform, same thing. Pick whichever ones apply to the site location. Multiple selections are allowed. Whoops, I need to pick something. TNF geology, this just talks about the geologic history of the location, formation processes. Again, you can select more than one. There's a masonry variable that they have. Obviously, this only applies if you have masonry structures, that it has basic construction style. Again, it's not required because you may not have masonry structures. They also want to know, if it is a masonry structure, they want to know what materials. This is a free text field where you might type in river cobbles or, sandstone slabs or basalt boulders, whatever it might be. Then lastly, there's a comments field. It's a long comments field, so this you can use to type in any other additional setting or environmental or condition type information that doesn't conform to the variables that TNF requires. I mean, the TNF variables are pretty simple and basic, so you may need to record additional notes here. But once you've done this, you just click Submit. It'll go back. It's going to display a little bit of the first record there. Going down to the next thing, I have a little text section there that it repeats what the TNF requirements are for photos, and they require photographs documenting site setting and condition, including disturbances. If you are going to take photos of individual features or artifacts, those should be done using the artifact or feature subform photo options, but as far as overviews or damages, disturbances, you can just use this overview camera. I'm going to actually bring this open. This is a standard photo log form. You'll see it from the standalone photo app, from the I/O app, from the feature list, artifact list, whichever. Again, there's some basic instructions on the form. Tells which fields are required. You can read those later. Hide cleans up the form. Photographer is required. If you use other, there'll be another field that you can type in the photographer's name. Orientation is required. If it's an artifact, just pick plan. Lighting, not required. It wasn't required by BLM. It's there if you want to use it. Context. This is important. This is a required field because I want to be able to use this in the captions. So if we're just doing an overview shot, select overview, and that word overview will be associated with this photo, along with the site number that we're taking this from. Same if it's a disturbance, if it's a feature, artifact, if it's other. If none of those fit, you can click other, but you're just going to select one of those. People shown as a multi-select. Again, if there's recognizable humans in the photograph, they should be listed here. If you select other, you'll have an additional field to write their name in case a Town of Forest person is out there or some other person that's not on our staff list. So I'm going to select Connie and Tyler. There's a field for a caption where you can put free text in to describe the photo if you need to. Now, generally speaking, you do not need to do this because the software will link up the site number, the I/O number, whether it's an overview or a disturbance. So we can generally create the caption from the other variables that are associated. But if there's something in particular you want to mention, you would type it into the caption field. And then moving on down, we get two photo options. Option one is take a single picture, which will bring up the camera app, your option to take a picture of the camera, pick from photo library. I'm not actually going to, but that's how you would take one picture that would link with this stuff. Now there's also an option to take multiple pictures with the same log info. If you click this one, it brings up a separate little form, and you go take picture, and I'm just going to take some junk pictures here just to show you how this works. Photo, I'm going to click submit, and then we're just going to go back one field. Now I'm going to hit the plus because I want to take a second photo of the same thing. So I come back, I click take picture with camera, take the photo, and I'm going to click submit. But and now we're going to go back, and this is going to show us the two pictures. The only thing in this subform is the two pictures. So we see we took two pictures. I'm going to click the arrow to go back to the photo log form. And now I'm going to click submit because we've populated everything else. Now we've clicked submit, so now we're back to the log list. Now if we want to take a second that's different log information, we hit the plus again, and we bring up the photo and we go through the standard fields again and take the picture. In this case, I'll just take a single picture, take a picture with camera, picture, and I'm going to scroll down and submit. All right, so now we see we've taken 2 photos from this site. So I'm done for now. I took 2 overview shots. I'm going to click the back arrow to go back to the site form. So that was just the take overview setting condition photos. That's just kind of the general site photos. That's how you take them. Okay, next option is the site artifact summary. This is used for estimating the overall artifact counts on a site by a material class. Very, very simplified, very minimal details about them. But this is for when you want to just say there's 500 flakes and 1,000 sherds, and you're not going to try to break down the types and the wares and the materials for all that. This is to get overall estimates. That way you can do individual records for important artifacts or artifacts that that are diagnostic or unusual, but without having to make an entry for every basic generic thing. So it's a multi-select thing, so when you bring it up, you pick which artifact classes are present. And for whichever ones you pick, when you hit select, it will unhide fields. One for the count, the estimated count. This is a number, but I might say 75 for the sherds. There's a text field where I could enter something. I might say plain, and then estimated count of flake stone. Maybe there's 50, and I'm just going to say, white shirt. And click done. Estimated count of groundstone, I'm going to say there was 1, and I'm just going to say it was a mono. And I could take additional assemblage notes if I wanted to. You might, but again, you don't have to. I'm going to click submit. So now we have our overall site artifact estimates. This is something that goes right on the site form. I'm going to move on down. Now, if you remember, we said earlier this is an artifacts only site. So there's an artifact list entry, and I'm going to open this up just for a second, but if you watched the isolated occurrence video, you saw the same subform from the isolate. It has the same fields. Again, on a site form here, you might be more likely to use the in concentration or sample unit or associated with feature options than you would on an I.O. And in that case, again, you record that in the context notes and just set it back to general. I'm not going to go through all the rest of this again because, again, like I said, it's just the same as it was for the isolated occurrence form. Okay, it's going to say form saved as draft because I didn't bother doing some of the required fields, but that's okay. Well, actually, it won't let me save it if I do that. So I'm going to go back up and say it's Aboriginal, and we already said ceramic, and I'm going to say that there was 1 polychrome bowl rim sherd in addition to what else I'm going to say. In this case, I'm going to say Gila. We already know it's poly, so that's all I really need to put here. And there was 1 sherd. I might take a photograph of this because of a Gila polychrome sherd. I'm not going to do it right now. Submit. Now it's going back. So we've made 1 detailed artifact record for this site. Again, I'm not going to spend more time on this because it's the same as using the artifact list on the I.O. form. The feature list is the same as it is on the isolate form. So I'm going to go back to the rest of the site form. Moving down below artifact list, loci concentration. This is another subform. This is only used if you want to track things that you've assigned in the field. If say you had 2 loci and the GPS mappers are going to do polygons, showing loci 1 and loci 2. Well, this is just where you could take notes on it. There's very little information recorded here. You have your field GPS ID, you have an alt1 if something goes wrong with it. You have an also recorded as, in case you guys are calling it something different than a locus or concentration. The locus number, again, is numerically 1, 2, 3 within each site. The resources that are in the concentration or locus, again, artifacts, features, both, other. There's a description field if you want to say anything about it. You might not need to. Again, this is mostly just to be able to say on the iPad that, yeah, there was 3 concentrations recorded, and then the map, but most of the concentration information is going to come from the map that's showing where the concentration is located. The other way that this is used is in the artifact or feature screens, you can specify that that feature or artifact is part of a named locus or concentration. Scrolling down, you have the option taking a photograph, not required, so I'm going to just click Submit. Again, very little information recorded on this concentration subform. It's just a list of assigned concentrations. So I'm going to go, we could add a second one by using the plus. I'm not going to do that. Go back to the site form. We're near the bottom. We're to the sampling units. So click the sampling units. That's going to bring up a sample unit subform. You get a sample unit GPS ID. That way it can be mapped on the GPS. We have sample unit size here. It should default to 1 by 1 because that's what's going to be used on your project. Recorder, this would be who's typing stuff in, I guess. Your sample unit number, that's the last part of the sample unit GPS ID. And then you just enter the ceramic count, flakestone count, groundstone count, and marine shell count. As you see it right now, these are just numerical text fields. I'm going to probably change them to counters with the plus and minus. So that may be a little different when you see the form. But here's where you record your sample information. You can put comments in about the sample unit if you need to. Otherwise, we're just going to click Submit. Back at the list view, if you wanted to do a second or third, you'd do the plus to open up another entry level. Then that would be Unit 2, Unit 3, and so forth. Go back to the main form. We're very close to the bottom. You see the human remains observed. This one is not defaulted, and you need to click No. It's required, so you need to click Yes or No. If you click No, you're good, and you're done with that. If you click Yes, another required field comes up, and there you need to describe what you saw as far as the human remains in the text field. Now again, that's not a typical thing to find on survey, so normally this is going to be a simple no, you don't have to worry about it. Then lastly, the site description field, that's a text field. It's required. You don't necessarily have to make it a finished final site description. As long as you type anything into this field, it will meet the requirement. I'm just going to type in something real quickly to do that and make the requirement so it'll sync. But again, if you have the time to get your thoughts down on what's important about the site, it'll save you time after post field. Again, the draw sketch option. We previously took photographs of the overview, setting, and condition using the photo app earlier in the thing. So we're basically done with this. I'm going to click Submit. And we see we have the hourglass icon, meaning it's submitted but not synced yet. So I'm going to go back. Again, just like the other one, if we click plus, we'll start a new site record. If you click this little icon here, it looks like a map point. It'll show the location of the current record on a map. It's not particularly useful, but whatever. I'm going to use the back arrow to go back to the main string. We see the hourglass icon on the site form. So I'm going to go up and click Sync, Log On to make sure that gets uploaded. It's got 1 to 10. When you see that 1 to 10, that refers to form records and subform records. So that's why the number might not match the number of sites you recorded, because there's been subform entries in the photo log form or the artifact form, etc. So as soon as this finishes here, I'm going to end this video as well. Hopefully this has been helpful. I'm actually going to close this video out before it finishes syncing. So thank you very much.